Hi, thanks for joining me in my talk. Its title is Reimagine UX or User Experience in the Block Editor with WP Interactions. Just a little bit about myself before we begin. So my name is Benjamin Intal, and it's my second time to participate in Page Builder Summit, and I am very happy to be back. So I'm the founder and lead developer of Gambit Technologies Inc. I run it alongside my wife, and we are a WordPress focused company. We have two flagship products. So the first one is Stackable. It's a page builder block plugin for WordPress. And the other one is WP Interactions, which was just launched last year. It is my passion to code and create new products. So I've been doing WordPress since 2010. So if you want to find more about me or if you want to get in touch, my handle is BFIntal across all the platforms. So here's our agenda. First, let's talk about why UX or user experience matters. Then, let me show you some few cool interactions I found online, and then I'll show some ways of adding interactions with the block editor that you can do right now. And then afterwards, I'll be showing you what WP actions, or rather, WP interactions can unlock, followed by 3 quick and very interesting demos. So for this presentation, for UX or user experience, we'll be focusing more on the user interaction side of things. So our whole premise is that if we can give our visitor a pleasant experience through the use of interactions, then they would be happier when checking out all our services and the rest of our website. They would stay longer, engage with what we have to offer more, remember us more, and hopefully convert more. Interactions for me can either be small, like your entrance effects where stuff fly in or fade in, or your hover effects where, let's say, if you put your mouse over a card, then the image zooms in a little, or the card pops out a bit because of some shadows. Interactions can also be big, like when you scroll down a page, then what you think looks like just an ordinary image now moves like a video. Or you have functional interactions like your basket calculators, insurance calculators, or calculators of various fees. All right, so research says that content with interactive elements generates 2 times more conversions than passive content. So it sounds fairly correct if you think about it. So something more fun, more eye-catching, or engaging can definitely perform better than if you just have something static and doesn't move. So let's see some examples. This um this quote is actually a bit old, so it's from 2017, but I think it's very relevant still at this time. So this one here is Apple's website. This page uses a ton of animation interactions. If you check at the top, it says, find the perfect gift this Mother's Day. Hold on, it's going to show up there. So it's a call to action, and then when the page first loads, it animates to catch your attention slightly. Then below it, you have a few video backgrounds with a nice 3D render that animates to introduce the product. So the interactions on this page are pretty great. Now, let's look at something more functional. So here's a car loan calculator from the Bank of America website. So having something like this might be very beneficial for visitors. It helps the user understand more how a car loan works and how much you actually need if you want to purchase a car. So if a car costs this much, then you just do monthly payments of this amount, then you can also find the apply now button immediately below the figure. So I'm sure this one really helps with their conversions. All right, so those are examples of what I just found online. But how exactly can you add interactions in your block editor right now? So it's very easy, and you probably already know how. So first, you can embed videos. If you want to show your location or the location of multiple shops, then you can embed maps. You can also add in forms. This can be your contact forms or even survey forms. And then if you're using a page builder, then these usually come with motion effects, where you can quickly make things fade in when they enter the screen. And then you can also use carousels so people can swipe left or right to see more products or more services. So these are a lot of common stuff that you can do right now. Now I'd like to introduce you to WP Interactions. This plugin works right in the block editor, and it lets you add interactivity to any native or third-party block without coding. So it unlocks more sophisticated interactions, things that go beyond the common interactions that you can do. So the ones that I listed down a while ago. So we do things by giving you triggers and actions. So triggers are things that can happen in the front end. So things like the page loaded, or you click on something, you hover your mouse over something, you scroll the page. If a CSS class name gets added or gets removed, or if a block enters the viewport, or maybe your URL gets a different hash value, or even if your local storage, a key in the local storage changes value. So those are all your triggers. And then you can also we also provide actions. And these are things that you can perform after something gets triggered. So these do things in the front end and also in the back end. So you have your visibility. So things getting hidden or getting shown, visually moving things or rotating blocks. You can also toggle CSS classes, remove them, add them. You can change text colors or background colors. You can scroll the page to a specific portion, or you can also manipulate your DOM. So you can replace text, append HTML. You can also change the page state. You can call JavaScript functions or even PHP functions. You can retrieve post data, and you can also update them in the backend. Or you can also show a confirmation dialog that the user would have to press OK, or he can cancel. So you can combine these triggers and actions in different ways. You can come up with some pretty powerful interactions. So let's say on page load, you can retrieve some post data, like the number of thumbs up of a portfolio, and then you can display it somewhere in your page. Or maybe when you scroll down to a page, so scrolling here is the trigger, and then you can have an elaborate set of animations where the images and text would move around and then update the state of the page. Lastly, maybe you're creating a user update button. So when a button is clicked, you'll prompt a confirmation dialog, and then if the user presses OK, then you can call some JavaScript functions and then perform an update on some post data. So the sky's the limit. It's up to you. So in my example here, you have one trigger, which is clicking, and then you have three actions that are performed afterwards. So first, you pop out a confirmation dialog for the user, then you call some JavaScript function, and then you update some post metadata. So we made this whole process of creating interactions. This whole thing, by the way, here, your one trigger and multiple actions, we consider this as one interaction. So the process of creating interactions, we made this easy by providing a user-friendly interface that we call timelines. So basically, what you just have to do is place in actions that you want inside your timeline, and then they just all be performed at the appropriate time. So like in my screen right now. So some more possibilities that we can achieve using this trigger and action system is we can toggle CSS classes when hovering over images. We can scroll to the content area on a button click. We can create an auto slider that slides a carousel every 2 seconds, let's say. We can do fade in effects when blocks get inside a viewport. We can do bigger series of animations that play when the user scrolls. On the more functional side, we can pre-fill forms with the user metadata, with the current user's information. We can increment post data, post meta values on click, let's say. And then we can also save the current page state in local storage. And then that value we can further use to trigger something else. Okay, so let's move on to our demo. So this is a sample website that I placed a large video at the top. So what we want to do here is we want to sync up the video. So instead of letting the video play in a loop, we want it to play while we're scrolling the page. So a lot of websites do this right now. So when the page scrolls down, the video plays at the same pace forward. And then when you scroll back up, it will play the video backward at the same pace also. So it's a quite simple effect, but with the right video, you can achieve quite amazing things. So this is going to be our starting point. The top portion of the web page is just a native cover block with a video added as the background. So right now you can see over here it's just looping. The rest of the page comes from patterns that's included in our theme. By the way, we're just using the default 2025 theme. So we're all just using native blocks, and the only plugin we have enabled is WP interactions, and that's to build our interactions. So let's go ahead and create the effect or the interaction. So we'll be starting off with a page that is composed of all native blocks. Hold on, let me just play this. Okay. So the top portion is a cover block, and then the rest are from patterns available from my block theme. So the first thing to do is to add a video background to our cover block. And then once you do, the normal behavior of the video would be to just keep on playing and looping. So while this can work depending on the video, for us, what we want to do is to sync up the playing of the video with the amount of scrolling done on the page. So this is our first interaction. So we can click on the WP interactions button on the top right to access all of our interactions. Right now we don't have anything. You have two types of interactions. We have element interactions. So these are actions that occur when the user interacts with something on the page, elements or blocks. Then you have your page interactions, which are actions that occur depending on the page state. So what we want to do is to add a new page interaction. More specifically, we want to do things while the page is scrolling. So we pick while page is scrolling. So now we have our new interaction, and it shows just a blank timeline. So nothing here right now. Our job now is to add actions inside this timeline. So if you click on the plus button, we can add an action. You'll see we have a ton of actions that we can use. What we are interested in is the scrub video action. Next, we'll need to select which block we want to apply this action to. We can easily do this by clicking on the target button. Now it's waiting for us to pick a block. There. And we want to select the cover block. So you can select any block that you want. For example, this heading or paragraph. But now for us, we want the cover block. Now that's done. We can click on select block. And you'll notice we have an error indicator here. Not to worry. It just says that we need another scrub video action with the same target, or else the animation won't work. So we'll just have to create another one. And we will also have to target the same cover block. So we haven't set up the actions yet. Let's first explore what this timeline does. If we click on the live preview toggle, the timeline will start working in the editor. Since our interaction is for the scrolling of the page, when we scroll the editor, it will show where our scroll is currently at in the timeline. If you scroll down, the indicator goes down. So this means that the action is around 20%. And we want the action to play roughly in this area. So what we want to do is drag up the action so that we have one action at 0%, and we want it to start playing at the 0-second mark. And the second action, we want it to stop at the 8-second mark, since I know that this is an 8-second video. So we can check the live preview whether this works or not. So now when I scroll down, the video plays, and then when I scroll back up, it goes back. I can further perform adjustments if I want, maybe move it down. And now we can check this out in the front end. Just save and let's see. All right, now we can scroll down and it plays synced up with our scrolling. Very good. Okay, so for our second interaction demo, we'll aim to gather more interest and get more subscribers, let's say, by enhancing our call to action. So in our dummy website. So over here, we can do this specific effect that we have on the screen by performing two actions. So the first action is fading out the background when we reach this area. And then number two, we also want the CTA area to scale up a little bigger. So it's two effects in one. So how do we do this? So starting from where we left off, hold on, and play, oops, sorry. Let's just go back. All right. So starting from where we left off, we can, it's not playing, hold on. There. So starting from where we left off, when we scroll down, we'll see the call to action that we will adjust. Since we're still doing interactions that's related to scrolling again, we can opt to use the same timeline and just add our new actions here. So the action that we need is to change the background color. So we pick background color. Since the CTA is at the bottom, we want to move our action at the very bottom. Now, we're not adjusting for a specific block this time because we want to change the background color of the whole page. So we want to change the document body background color. To do this, we need to use CSS selector and type in body. And then we'll make it a little bit transparent. All right. And now you can see we also got the same warning we had earlier. So no worries, we can just do a Command C and then Command V to copy and paste this action to duplicate it. And then let's move it up a bit and then change the background color from black to white because white is our starting point. Now let's see what it looks like in the front end. So just do a save. So now when we scroll down, when we reach near the area of the CTA, the background turns black and our CTA gets highlighted. So aside from that, we have another effect that we want to do, and that's to scale up the CTA to make it a little bit bigger. So we add a scale action and we target the specific group block. Select, yeah. And then we drag it over the action beside the background color action since we want them both to happen at the same time. And then we duplicate it and then move the second one to the bottom. And then let's change the scale to 1.1 to make the CTA scale up to 110%. And then let's see how it looks like. Just save. And when we scroll down, the background becomes darker and the CTA becomes bigger. All right, so we have that interaction finished. Now for the very last demo, let's revisit the calculator example from earlier from the Bank of America and challenge ourselves with something that's not animation oriented. Let's try and recreate this using WP interactions. So let's break it down first. If you think about it, it's fairly simple. It's just a bunch of input fields. You have your total loan amount, term, interest rate, and then you calculate using a given formula when you hit the calculate payment button, and then you display the answer on the right. All right, so how do we do something like this? So in order to create our car loan calculator, I'm using the plugin WP Forms to build the forms visually. I'm not using any other plugin functionality except to create the input fields of the form. So I've already set up 3 input fields here for the total loan amount, the term number, and interest rate. I've put in the necessary CSS class names also for each input field so that we can target the inputs and then grab their values later on. And then I've also pre-filled them with values. We can place this form in a new page and then we'll make our interaction there. I also created some blocks where we will be displaying the calculated monthly payments. So to make our interaction, we would want to use actions that grab the values from these 3 fields and then perform some calculations on those numbers and then output the final amount. So let's add a new interaction, and for this one we want it to start when we click the calculate payment button. So we make an element interaction that starts with the trigger click. Next, we need to set the click trigger where it should originate from. So it should originate from the button, but since the form is a whole block that's made by WP Forms, we can't just simply target the button directly here. So we would need to target things another way using a CSS selector or a CSS class name. What we can do is we can inspect what this looks like in the front end to see what CSS selector we can use. So we can inspect this, and then I can see that I can use the WP Forms -submit class name. So we can enter that value for the CSS selector. All right. So another thing we need to do is to prevent the form from submitting, since we just needed to perform calculations in real time. So now, if I turn this on and then check in the front end, when I submit the button or when I click the calculate payment button, it doesn't submit or it doesn't do anything. So now let's start adding actions that will happen upon clicking. Our plan is we need to grab the value of the amount input field, then the term input field, then the interest field. Then we will run some custom JavaScript code that has the equation and then place the output in this block. The action we need is get value from input. Here. The applied to area is where we pick which input to grab the value from. So we readied ourselves earlier by placing CSS class names. And for the total loan amount, the selector is the CSS class name amount. So this was what we used earlier. Then we grab the value. We need to assign it a reference ID so that we can use this value later on in a later action. So I'll place here amount. So before we proceed with the others, let's just see first whether we are able to successfully get the value. I can use the action console log for this. And for the value that we want to log, we can choose a value from a previous step. So we can choose amount. So just pick that, and then we can see in the front end in the browser console this result. So let's save it. And then in the front end, when we click the calculate payment button, we will be able to see in the browser console that our value is this one, 49,000 there. So it shows 49,000. So this means we are able to grab the value. Now we can proceed with the other actions. I can just click on the action and do a copy and paste and just change where the values are gotten from and the reference IDs. So this one is for the term, and then we need to do it again for the interest rate. Interest. Next, we need to run some custom JavaScript code. This is where we will be calculating using an equation. I have the equation ready for amortization loans. So it's a bit complex, so I can just paste it in. Because, yeah, there. So I'll just paste it in. It uses the data from our previous actions already. If you see the script here, it says data.amount, data.interest. So I'll also add another reference here called monthly so that we can use the output of this script in a next action. And now what we want to do is replace the text to show our output. So we'll change we'll use the amount monthly, which came from the custom JavaScript action. Put a $sign at the front as a prefix, and then we can pick which block we will use to replace the text. Then let's save and see what this looks like in the front end. So now if I click calculate payment, it shows the monthly payment figure. And we can try out different values in the input field, and we can see that they also calculate the correct amount. Forgot to remove the log there, but as you can see, it's working. Right. So that's my talk, and thank you so much for your time. I hope you found this talk useful and that you learned something new. I hope you will be able to also try out WP Interactions. So you can learn more about it at wpinteractions.com. And also make sure to grab the Power Pack. It includes a ton of extras, and it also includes a 3-month-long free premium account to WP Interactions. So you can grab it for yourself there. Thank you, and see you soon.